Are we ready? Madam Clerk,
Hi.
are you ready?
Yes.
Mr. Einbinder? Channel 15? Good evening. Welcome to the April 8th, 2019 agenda meeting of the Milltown Borough Council. The meeting will now come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Council President Dixon?
Present.
Councilman Farkas?
Here.
Councilwoman Kerber?
Present.
Councilman Ligotti?
Here.
Councilman Mayer? Here. Councilman Revelinsky?
Here.
Mr. Mayor, we have 6 present.
Thank you. Will the clerk please read the meeting statement?
Let the minutes reflect that adequate notice of the holding this regular business meeting of the Borough Council was provided by the adoption of a resolution and the posting, filing, and forwarding of a copy of the same to the official Borough newspapers, Home News Tribune, and Star Ledger Publishing Companies on January 10, 2019. Public participation in this meeting will be permitted during public hearings and after the agenda of scheduled matters has been completed.
Thank you. Please rise for a moment of silence, followed by a salute to our nation's flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated.
I thought that too over there. Didn't even know.
First on the agenda this evening is items for discussion. Middlesex County Park Prescription Program. I will turn it over to Councilwoman Kerber.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have John Dowd. He is the division head for the Public Health Preparedness and Health Education. We are in the Milltown Health and Wellness Council, which actually meets tomorrow morning, and I have asked him to present the prescription park prescription program. Go ahead, John.
Thank you for having me here tonight.
Good evening, sir. Welcome.
Good evening. Welcome. Thank you. So I'm going to talk about a new initiative that we're going to be rolling out coming in the beginning of the summer called Park RX America, or Prescription Parks. So basically, Park RX America, it's a nonprofit organization. Its mission is to decrease the burden of chronic disease, increase health and happiness, and foster environmental stewardship by virtue of prescribing nature during the routine delivery of health care. So I have some handouts. This is one of the handouts that you guys have. So basically, Dr. Robert Czar, he's a pediatrician in Washington, D.C. And he founded Park RX America in 2017. And to make it easier for more health professionals to write park prescriptions for patients of all ages. So Park RX America has incorporated nearly 8,500 parks into its prescribing platform in 34 states, with nearly 200 registered prescribers nationwide, so doctors participating in the program. In New Jersey, we have 191 parks registered, and within Middlesex County, we registered 22 of our county parks within the system. So I just wanted to show you on this slide too, information is also available in Spanish. So how does the program work? So basically, at this point, we're currently engaging healthcare providers to prescribe the use of parks for mental and physical well-being of their patients. And interested providers can implement the program in 3 easy steps. So find, prescribe, and document. So basically, find, they would utilize the online system, the searchable database to find the park that's registered within the system. They would send a text or email and prescribe the park to their patient, and then they would document within the electronic health record of the patient if they filled the prescription, so if they followed the prescription and utilized the park. So basically, it's a low-cost intervention to connect patients to nature, and then you have the ability to track prescriptions and patient adherence. And then also the healthcare professional can utilize the web and the online information for networking nationwide. So this is an initiative which is a partnership between various Middlesex County offices, the Office of Health Services, Planning, Parks and Recreation, and Aging and Disabled Services. This is the web platform. So basically you would go online here, the healthcare professional, to find a park to prescribe. So that's, you would utilize the park tab. Or if a physician wanted to go on here to actually become part of it, they would utilize the resource tab up here. And then would bring them to this for health professionals, and then you would create an account. So this is some other screenshots of how you would create an account and all the other information that you would have on there. So basically that would be what kind of physician, what category you would fall into. You would go and check that off as well as part of the online registration. And then on the left-hand side, that's actually some of the documents and stuff that are available online. So basically, this is how you would register as for a physician, and then this is the screen in regards to the different amenities within the parks. So they have about 40 different attributes. That could be a rural park, could be a trail, a school, a community center, could be added into the system. And then these are some of the screenshots of what we added in some of the county parks. So this is what you would see, the amenities, and then you get pictograms on what is available at each site. And then the physician would go on there, kind of get familiarized with the park, and then they can prescribe, say there's a little 0.2 mile trail around the lake. They could say, walk around the trail, twice a week for a half hour or something like that. So basically, for questions for physicians, health department, we're looking to recruit physicians, and then the planning office of planning is helping municipalities, because we're going to open it up to municipalities as well to add their parks into the system. So that would be Jessica. So you give Jessica an email if you're interested in adding the Milltown parks to the system. Okay, and that's it. Thank you.
Mr. Dowd, would you be willing to accept any questions from the council?
Sure.
If they have any? With that, I'll open it up to the council.
What's the expectation of use during the winter?
Well, use during the winter, I guess it depends on what the amenities of the parks are. So sometimes our parks, we have like the ice rink and things like that. So it all depends on what the park has to offer. So, basically it'll be, during probably more, the warmer months. We also do the Walk with the Doc program, and I know it's hard to kind of like starting in November almost all the way until like now.
Right.
It's kind of the cold season. So we look to, for other than we look to like maybe partner with malls and things like that for physical activity within the communities.
Any other questions?
If we're being referenced for prescriptions, do we also then get paid and get to bill people through medical? No? Is that?
No.
Okay.
It's just something that would go on their electronic health record as part of what they're, doing, working on with their patient.
So if I may, just so it's clear in my mind, so basically, you go to your local doctor. If your doctor participates in this program, what they will do is they will refer you to a park and a recommended workout, something to do. And then you would do it, you would set up an account electronically, and this way you could let your physician know that you are indeed following up on his recommendations. And trying to
And that's pretty
keep
much
yourself healthy.
Yep, and that's pretty much the data that we would receive. We would just know how many were prescribed and then how many were filled. And that depends, on the follow-up with the patient to the doctor.
That's nice. And because it's on a website, if you travel to different parts of the state, say you're up visiting family in somewhere else, and you could go on and find a park that's part of this, and you could find out where it says it has a walking trail or whatever, and you could go and participate there.
Yep, and that's part of it too, that, you know, to utilize our parks.
Right, so I guess the thing to do would be, if you're looking to participate in this, is to, next time you have you go to your doctor, inquire with your physician, do you participate in this, and if not, can you look into it? I guess
Yeah.
that would be something you could do.
So right now, we're looking to pilot it and get some physicians that are interested to start the program. But also, you know, anyone here that heard this could talk to their doctor and say, I heard about this prescription parks, would you be interested?
Yeah,
And then you can give them my information.
That's great.
When's it starting?
We're looking to roll it out, I think, in June.
And how do they track the data?
So the data is tracked like just the two things, is how many were prescribed and then how many then were filled. So then that will depend on the follow-up on when, I guess, their next appointment is with their doctor. Or sometimes it could be almost automatic if, you know, he prescribed it and it's electronic and the patient, they do text or email that they did it.
As a pilot program, and let's say it works out very well, are there costs involved to the physician or to the municipality for this program?
No, there's no cost. I mean, the cost that we would have right now through the county would be to promote it, so our Reaper graphics costs and things like that, you know, to get information out.
What sort of backing or additional support, and you just mentioned just promotional for now, is the county providing? And the reason I ask is, if we find that a lot of residents, whether they be from Milltown or from out of town, are utilizing our parks, and this program has the county's support, would the county be looking to also add some additional funding to help us improve things? I know in the past we've looked at exercise equipment along Mill Pond Park, along the path out there, little workout stations, and I'm wondering if the more people that use the parks in Milltown through this program, we'd be able to receive some additional funding and assistance from the county.
That would be a good question for our Office of Planning, and then work with them in regards to enhancing parks within the county and the municipalities. So, very good question.
I also saw you had mentioned, or one of the slides up there, some of the programs you had was swimming, and of course, you know, we have our borough pool, but I was also wondering about things like yoga in the park, finding out which municipalities have programs regularly scheduled that
they could.
that physicians can assign and say, here's a good program.
And kind of intertwine all that.
Mhm.
Yeah, very good. That's one of the outcomes that could happen is, you know, people learn more of what's going on within the community, within the parks, by promoting, cross-promoting additional programs.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
I think
Thank
we're good. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Anything else, Councilwoman?
Nope, that's all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is miscellaneous engineering items.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. We have a rather long list of things to go through tonight, so bear with us. We'll try to get through them as expeditiously as possible, and at the end we'll do our presentation. So, first on our list is to update you with regard to the progress on Wilson. As you remember, that's the project that improves the remaining portion of Wilson as it ended from the Washington Avenue end towards the Janet Court end. We're putting a pipeline in there and improving the drainage on Janet Court. We're happy to report that we'll be setting up the pre-construction meeting shortly. The contracts have begun, or it's got scheduled some test pits already. Second on our list tonight is the status of the Public Works project, which you know we give you on a monthly basis. We'll be providing additional reports per the request of the borough on their 2-week basis, but we wanted to give this verbal tonight. Progress continues on the project. Building materials are starting to come into the project site. As you may have noticed on the way in tonight, they've begun the excavation for the last remaining retaining wall. We also extended the 12-inch water line, which goes back some years now, not to bore you with old details, but for a long time there's been a weakened system from Washington towards the mill. When the mill constructed, they put a 12-inch extension from Main Street all the way to where the mill driveway was. And it ended there, and our project now is extended up beyond the driveway where Public Works enters on the other side of the curb. And that 12-inch is a major improvement to water pressure and system flows there. And ultimately, and you know you have a big wish list, if I had my druthers, there's a lot of things. I'd love to see that 12-inch go underneath the railroad track someday, but it's a lower priority at this point, but at least it's nice to see it move its way up towards that problem. It would reinforce the areas in Washington and ultimately to Riders Lane, but that's something, as I said, is a wish list item. So we're happy to see it being brought up to that point. Status on the water tank, work continues. I'm not sure if you noticed, but the interior wet and dry portion, which basically is the area where the container holds the water, and the dry section, which is the access to, have been underway with regard to blasting and paint removal. The outside, you may have seen the curtains up on the outside to prevent paint and chips from going outside beyond our property. And work is progressing. They should be starting the exterior paint very soon, is what we're reporting from the contractor. As you may notice, the weather, this is excellent weather to paint a tank. We couldn't have asked for better weather. The timing, and I realize this project took a while to get everybody into place and the attendant companies, but we're happy to see the weather cooperating today. It should be a very good time to paint the tank. We've had various discussions over the years with regard to the service issues in Milltown, with regard to the type they are. We have a meeting scheduled with the EP on April 23rd, and I believe that invitation has been sent to the council to attend that meeting. Next on our list is a report regarding the very good news, the trust fund. This is the Transportation Trust Fund, that is, which is now funded through the gas tax. The borough received $508,000 in change for the Tracy Drive area road improvements, which is a nice shot in the arm for you. Heretofore, the grant range were at 200, 250. Now you're getting almost 508,000. Now that doesn't do both streets. We had Desmond and Tracy Drive in there, so obviously the mayor and council have to decide which part of the project they want to do. So what we're recommending, this project and this letter be agendized for the next Public Works Committee meeting, and then we report back to the mayor and council with a recommendation after that. The last thing we have is our presentation of the asset management plan, which we promised at your last meeting. As you know, there's a deadline, a soft deadline, as I say, on April 19th to have it in the borough, which we will make that deadline. We have tonight Mackenzie from our office who will make a presentation on the asset management plan. I think it's important for you to know where we're headed and the intricacies of this plan. It isn't just a superficial plan, as I said at the last meeting. There is some detail to it. When you see the analysis, you'll see what effort has gone into this. Fortunately, we had some information in the office, and we've done enough of these for other clients that we're able to put this together. I think Keith Chervala, who's the head of the Water Wastewater Department today, was working on the chart today just before we got here. And there's still more to be done, but we will have it in the Borough Hall before the 19th of April, and it does not have to be submitted to DEP until, I think, 2022, which Mackenzie will go through with you, but at some point, and the last thing I'll tell you, and let Mackenzie get going here, is that it's meant to be a living document. Any of these plans like this are meant to be refined over time as certain things change, pipes get installed, different conditions, that it's modified. And that's the intent, that EPA has pressed this on it. And when you see how the report's done, you can imagine in your mind, if EPA has every town in the entire country doing this, you can see the data that they're going to get. Remember, when they go to Congress to request money for their infrastructure, they need data to show what the needs of the country is. So that's what they've done through the state and ultimately the country. And you'll see how this works out. And if everybody does the analysis the same way, you'll see how valuable it's going to be. So without further ado, I'll let Mackenzie start. Okay?
Okay. Hello, everybody. This presentation is on the asset management plan for the borough. So the main driving force behind the asset management plan is the Water Quality Accountability Act. This act was passed July of 2017 and implemented in October of 2017. So it's just now coming due that the asset management plans are due. Some of the other requirements from the act are valve and hydrant maintenance, GPS location of their assets, development of a cybersecurity program if the system is internet connected, as well as a mitigation plan if there are any violations received. But the big focus here is the development and implementation of the asset management plan. So real quick to note, the New Jersey Environmental Infrastructure Trust also requires an asset management plan be in place for funding of their projects. So with the Milltown tank, this is another requirement for that. So the Water Quality Accountability Act outlines asset management components. So the first is a water main renewal program. They specify at a minimum 150-year replacement cycle, but this should be determined on a case-by-case basis. So if the system decides that 100-year is what fits, then that is what they should go with. But at a minimum, they require at least a 150-year replacement program. They also require water supply and treatment program. So this is designed to inspect, maintain, repair, renew, and replace assets within the system. Also, there's asset and system condition reports. So this is an annual condition report that basically just certifies that the system is in compliance with all the DEP requirements. And lastly, they require that each system dedicate funds on an annual basis to address and remediate the highest priority projects that are identified in the asset management plan. So, like Mike McClellan said, April 19th of this year is when you're supposed to have a plan implemented by, but submission to the DEP won't be for another 3 years, so that'll be April 19th, 2022, and then they require a report every 3 years after that. So.
And I just interrupt for a second. 150 year may get you concerned. This is brand new, so we believe that the state may accept various lining programs on your names rather than complete replacement, but it still has to be ferreted out with them. You have done some cement lining projects, but that doesn't necessarily get you beyond 150 years right now in their mind. But there are internal lining materials that are being used now, which basically put a liner inside a pipe within a pipe, essentially, and that's how this may be addressed rather than completely replacing one of the things. There's a cheaper cost to do it that way than completely replacing. So I just don't want to get you concerned about 150 years. Some of your pipelines may be approaching that. That may be not right now, but very soon.
So the approach that we took towards the asset management plan, we use the NG DEP as well as the US EPA guidances, their best practice guidance plans, as well as other tools identified by the DEP. And so the plan's concentration is on the hard assets of the system, so your pumps, your piping, your tanks, all the physical assets. The DEP defines 5 core components of the asset management plan. The first of which is the asset inventory and condition assessment. So that's an inspection of all the assets within the system and then assigning a condition rating to them. Then you have to identify your critical assets, so which are in better or worse condition. You want to define your level of service goals. So these are goals from the borough, performance goals that they would like to meet. There's also a life cycle costing of the assets. So this looks at the total useful life of each asset, as well as how much cost went into it over the years that it's been in place. And lastly, there's the long-term funding strategy. So it's how you're going to pay for these projects in the future. So the first is the asset inventory and condition assessment. So we took a broad approach to the grouping. So this is the broadest group, level 1. We've identified the transmission main that comes from New Brunswick as one item, the Elkins Lane booster station, your storage facilities, and then distribution system and interconnects. And then below each of these items, you'll have your level 2 groupings. So for the booster station, you can look at the building and the grounds. You could look at each room within the building. Then you could look at what's inside the rooms, all the different storage facilities, the different size of mains under the distribution system item. So it goes deeper and deeper into different levels. So then once you have all of your items identified and you've done your asset inventory, you have to give it a condition rating. So this is the EPA's guidance on how to rate your materials. 1 would be in new or excellent condition, all the way up to 5, which is unserviceable or virtually unserviceable. So we've gone through and kind of identified which assets are what rating.
What should be reviewed with your status?
So once they all have received a rating, then you have to look at the criticality and the vulnerability of each of the assets. So there's 2 items to look at, and one is the probability of failure, and one is the consequence of failure. Consequence is on the next slide. The EPA defines the probability of failure to have the same definition as the condition rating. So if it's in new or excellent condition, the likelihood of failure is very low. Once again, all the way up to 5. Something to note here is if there's redundancy within the system, that'll lower your probability of failure. So you have to look at if there's a backup pump, if there's a backup piece of equipment that could replace it in case of failure, so that would decrease your likelihood of failure. And then you have your consequence of failure. So your consequence is, once again, on a 1 to 5 scale, whether it's a negligible consequence or a catastrophic consequence, will have an impact on the overall risk of that asset. So the risk is evaluated by multiplying the probability of failure by the consequence of failure, and also by the redundancy. So if you have a low probability of failure and a low consequence, you're going to have a low priority asset. If you have a high probability and a high consequence of failure, those are your high priority assets, and those are the main components that you want to focus on in your asset management plan, and as well as funding for them in the future. So then you have your level of service goals. These are goals, these are performance goals defined by the borough for anything that they want to meet. These goals can be qualitative or quantitative. We go by the SMART goals: specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. And these goals are tracked with key performance indicators. So some examples of that would be if you wanted to look at drinking water compliance, so that would be a percentage of time the utility is meeting all of the drinking water standards. So it's all done on a percentage basis, and the borough would identify what they want to meet. So if they want to meet a 95% drinking water compliance, they could set that and then track that over the next however many years as the plan evolves and improves. You can look at other things such as pipeline breaks or service complaints, service disruptions. There's a ton of different key performance indicators you could look at that would be defined by the borough of the goals that they would like to meet. So next up is the life cycle costing. So the cost of each asset, you have to look at it in terms of the life of the asset. So if the asset has an estimated life of 75 years and it was installed 50 years ago, you have 25 years until it needs to be replaced, possibly, or repaired. So you can look at all the costs over its lifetime, the initial installation cost, any repair, replacement costs. You can review the service history. And then once you get a final life cycle cost, you can use that as a general guide in identifying any potential projects or improvements that you would like to make. And then the last core component is the capital planning and long-term funding. So the core of the asset management plan is a spreadsheet that's been provided by the US EPA, and it summarizes all the inventory and assets within the borough and assigns a life cycle cost to each asset. And we've gone through and updated it for the borough of Milltown, identifying all of their assets pertinent to the system. So here we have a system map, shows the transmission main from New Brunswick, the Elkins Lane booster station, all the distribution piping, the water storage tank, any interconnects, and this was used in the preparation of the spreadsheet. We were able to get pipe lengths, valves, hydrants, equipment from that. So this is the spreadsheet that I had talked about before. On the left side, it identifies all your assets, all the equipments. It starts with the overall groups and then goes into smaller and smaller groups. We have storage tanks, and then for the storage tank, you could have the structure itself and then the paint on it. Like I said, for the pump station, you have the grounds. You can have the pump room, and then inside the pump room, you have all the pumps, all the motors, all the valves, and it goes deeper and deeper for each piece of equipment. The yellow columns are the condition assessment, so that's the date that it was installed, the asset class, which defines a life cycle for that asset, the original cost for installation, and then also the condition rating that was done through visual inspection of each item. And then the red columns are your level of service goals. So those can either be defined by the borough, or if there are minimum requirements from the state, you can input those here too. The green is the criticality of the system, so it goes over the probability of failure, consequence, and risk. And then the blue is strategies, renewal strategies, whether no repairs need to be made, minor repairs, full replacement, cost for replacement, so that goes into that. And then ultimately, it'll show you a projection of the next however many years, 50 years, and you'll be able to see that in 2024, you'll have this piece of equipment reaching the end of its useful life, and it will cost this much, and then you can budget and plan for how much each year you'll need to save in order to do those high priority projects at that time. So the asset management plan implementation, the plan is used to satisfy the asset management requirements of the Water Quality Accountability Act. The plan, like we said, is a living document, so it needs to be reviewed and updated on a regular basis. This includes condition assessments and risk, and it needs to be submitted every 3 years. Then as you go forward, you can better define your levels of service and track your key performance indicators. So these are changing. You can adjust them as you go. And you can continue to refine the asset inventory. Like we said, you start broad and you identify the major pieces of equipment, and then you can get smaller and smaller and smaller all the way down to the light bulbs in the pump station. And then you give a funding priority to the project. So your high priority projects are where your funding is going to go. So that is it for this presentation.
Okay, so what I just want to add here, it's not significantly unlike the capital improvement plan that you already have in place, but obviously a lot more detail goes into this. What we propose to do in the interest of time is to make some engineering judgments on some of those factors. And obviously this report will be in the Borough Hall, and obviously be made available to Mayor and Council and also your staff, so that you have time to adjust these things. You're going to get some information out of it. I caution everybody, don't get concerned, because the numbers based upon this level of detail may go significant depending on how we deal with it. But I think that it's a program that we haven't a lot of choice, but we have to do it. And, but I think it gives us some time to go through and modify it. And it's not, as I said, not unlike what you have already. Fortunately, with the information that we have in-house, we're able to see the level of detail. This is not a small planning doc. This is serious engineering. And when you're looking at the probabilities of failure on a piece of equipment, we really need to understand pumps, and it's not something that everyone can do. We fortunately have some more knowledge about your system than we actually have in many other places. But this is a very detailed estimate and projection. So I think that it's worthwhile. I think it's going to help the borough with our future planning. And I guess we're here for any questions that you might have.
Mike, what level of detail do you have to go for the April deadline, April 19th deadline this year?
We have to have that chart completely filled out.
Filled.
It will be done.
Okay. So we're going to have the dollar value associated with some of those. So this will really be the capital improvements plan that we've been kind of begging for and wanting to do for years, while we still put out all the little fires that
I
occur.
don't know that it's better than the one we have, but it certainly is a different approach. It's probably going to come out very close to it. They never factored in replacing water lines 150 years, because in some ways that's never been manned. And if you have a water line that you can get to last longer than 150 years and it's surviving and it's been taken care of, it was hard for me to recommend you change water lines. This is a mandate. This is like, there's no questioning. You're either going to change that line, or you're going to go through and put a liner in or something to prolong its age. And I think that that's something, that's where it's a little bit different. Listen, that maybe DEP takes, an EPA takes another look at that, because they can't provide the country enough dollars to do this. That's how significant the numbers are. You know, you're small compared to places like Jersey City that really have longer amounts of lines and use it. So I think this is an intricate plan. I think you take it and you use it effectively. Obviously, certain things are mandates that you have to do. But I would recommend we around worrying about changing all our lines of people. Because I think that there is plenty of technology out there that can do it less costly, less invasive, and then you can get maybe even better than replacement. And I can tell you that from privacy. Ductile iron today is just not doing what the cast iron type that you're type of. We have had ductile iron in 20 years, basically like popcorn. Because the pressure saws would never be cast iron. So what I'm telling you is that there's no quick answer. This is an engineering function. It's not one that is easy to solve.
So after this asset management plan, I assume we'll be getting together and kind of looking at the other methods for replacement and rehabilitation that don't include open trench excavation. Yeah. I was at the No Dig show in Chicago 2 weeks ago, and the number of vendors that were there compared to 2 years ago even, in regards to trenchless repair, not trenchless install, but just repair, it had to have tripled. And the show has really become a focus on all the different types of liners that are out there, whether they're fiberglass or polymers.
Yeah, everything has its own drawback. For example, some of the plastics, they leach chemicals into your drinking water. So, there's nothing's perfect, okay? But, we have to go through, and we have certainly the ability to go through and make some recommendations. We have a lot of projects going on all over the state, and we can make those recommendations, and then you can make a decision based upon it. Nothing's perfect, I can tell you that right now. There's no great solution. I can tell you cast iron was an amazing pipe. I can tell you that, that's all I can tell you.
Well, it looks good so far, Mike. We're looking forward to the finished product.
Thank you very much.
I would like to add that I like this whole approach. I'm going to say that. For all of Milltown's history, we've always relied on our utilities director, our public works director, knowledge obtained over many years of replacing water lines. And unfortunately, when people retire or pass away, that information unfortunately has gone with it. And for so many years now, we've been working hard to get information, to get maps. We finally went and got the tax maps done, which is the base for our GIS and everything. Milltown has made great strides over the years to finally start getting something that's concrete, that anyone can take a look at and completely understand. I love the approach, I like everything about it. I would suggest to the council, once we get this thing pretty much done and going, because it is a living document, perhaps each council person takes their department and takes a similar approach. The way this is set up easily goes to Public Works. It goes to all the other departments. Things that and things have been done in the past. It's not like this is a new thing. Because like you said, Mike, we've had the improvement plan that's been going on. I remember when it, I guess, really started to get going in the 80s. Thanks to your company, really took really moved it along with road improvement project. Before that, things just they happened when they happened. So this is, even though it's not a new approach, I think it's a lot more intricate, and as you said, these are things you have to do. It's not a choice. And one thing that I really like about it is it takes the nonsense out of things that have to be done in town. We know, 20 years down the road, we know what's going to happen. 50 years down the road, we know what's going to happen. Okay, there's no smoke, there's no mirrors, there's no excuses. People in this town are going to know this is what's going to happen. You'll know 20 years ahead of time when your taxes are going to go up, or if they're going to go down, or whatever's going to happen. And you're going to know right about when your street's going to get dug up and get new water lines. So I really love the approach. I love the in-depth intricacies of everything. And again, I think if we take this and apply this to all the departments in town, of course it's going to be different, but if we use this as a model and you can use it into your own department, I think some great things are going to happen. And I hope the council will look at it and follow through in their departments with a similar approach. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mike, for the council part of that, to complete it by April 19th, the service level, would we need to put a meeting on for the Utilities Committee to go over that with you?
Well, I thought we'd make a recommendation from an engineering standpoint on those level services. We pretty much know what the concerns are of the mayor and council. We'll take a run at it. It's not, as I said, it won't leave it's just gonna come to Borough Hall and you'll get copies, and then you can either, gonna make the numbers look larger, obviously, but it's realistic at that point. If you look at it over time, you really need to do that, what's gonna cost in 2025 or 2030.
I think that also comes in with the 3-year renewal too, is we'll be looking at what the current interest rates are and what projects we've gotten shovel ready or even, completed, what ones are next, and then really start revising the numbers for those as well, because we're always going to be cognizant of our debt service and how much we're paying off too for these, because I doubt we're going to be able to undertake a few $1 million in expenditure and not go out for loans.
Yeah, I understand.
I did want to ask Mike about, you had mentioned Tracy and Desmet, before we get much further, and $508,000, and what I'd like is for you to go over what that entailed, what the trust or the grant money is approved for, and when you think you might have something shovel ready for that area. And the reason I ask that is we've been looking at Tracy and Desmet for about 2 years now as troubled areas, and as you know, we're spending a significant amount of money right now on tree removal, and before we spend money, which we have limited funds on tree removal there, if the project would encompass some tree removal for redoing curbs, sidewalks, whatever it may be in that area, I'd like to see. I don't want to delay that removal, but I also don't want to spend the money twice.
Yeah. And we received a call from the Public Works Director and Dorian on the same question. The answer, it did include tree removal and curb and sidewalk repair. So it basically now you have to decide how you want to direct the funds, because what happens is that the way these trust funds work is that they give you the notice, then a contract, an agreement comes in with the State Department of Transportation, and you sign that agreement, you execute that. That's when the project becomes live. So it could take several months for the state to get these agreements out, so that and then you've got to get an ordinance appropriated and prepared and introduced and adopted, and then the design is to, it could be, some time period before anything happens on Tracy Drive or whatever you decide to do. So, I think that's the decision you folks have to make, whether you want to wait or pull the trigger on cutting the trees down. But the job did include that, because that was what the problem was over there, in addition to resurfacing partial reconstruction of the road.
Right. I mean, that road is really pretty beat up, and I know Southbrook was done years before, so it'd be nice to have that area kind of done, and we can, I won't say forget about it, but we know it's covered for some time. I was curious, though, about the condition of our sewer and water over there, because I know in North Brunswick they do a road program, which is your storm drains, your curbs, your sidewalks, your water, and your sewer. So that, in conjunction with, it sounds like we would have ample time to contact PSE&G and say, we're looking at doing some work over here. If you're going to go in and rip up the road for your gas main replacement, then you might want to look at it sooner rather than later.
And one of the things Deanna will do is she'll send the project plans ultimately to the utility companies to advise them. On your water system, we'll check with John Eckert, and then the sewer system, what we'd probably recommend is you get a TV camera in there and see what the condition is before we do the road reconstruction. That's a common recommendation we've recommended for years here.
Any other questions for the engineer?
I just have one more thing, Mr. Mayor, just 30 seconds. The WKA also required that you exercise valves, 12-inch valves at this point in the process. We're working with John Eckert on that. We wanted to get this thing set up for you tonight. We're going to go through and locate the 12-inch valves. You don't have many 12-inch valves. We're going to locate them, try to get them GPS, and then get, I think the borough's going to try and get the operation, to check the operation of the valves. The other thing is hydrant flows. You do probably a portion of your hydrant, maybe 1/3 of your hydrants. The other 2/3 are supposed to be operated. We've recommended that you don't do anything until you get done with your flushing program, and we're looking at ways for you to either possibly do your own staff or bring in a contractor to do it. So we'll be talking to you as time goes on as to what our recommendation is, because it's an onerous thing, but you don't want to start flushing hydrants until the borough does its flush for the springtime. Okay, so we'd recommend that be waiting. So even though we're going to tell the DEP that it's our opinion that shouldn't be done until after you do your spring flush. Okay.
Hopefully we're doing that soon. I just heard the announcement today that New Jersey American is starting their spring flushing, and I know last year we had some brown water issues around town because the flushing was a little bit delayed due to some short staffing.
Understand.
Any other questions for the engineer? That's all we have, Mike.
Thank you very much. That's all we have. Sir.
Anything else, sir?
Nothing else. Thank you.
Okay. With that, I will open up the audience comments. Just a reminder, Any comments have to be in regards to what was discussed in the agenda meeting only. At this time, I will open audience comments. Seeing none, I will close audience comments and accept a motion for adjournment.
So be it.
Second.
I have a motion by Council President Dixon, seconded by Councilwoman Kerber, that we adjourn. Any discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Council President Dixon?
Aye.
Councilman Farkas?
Aye.
Councilman Kerber?
Aye.
Councilman Legati?
Aye.
Councilman Mayor?
Aye.
Councilman Revelinsky?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, we have 6 ayes.
So moved. Okay, if we don't have anyone kicking and screaming, I'd like to roll directly into the next meeting. Is that okay? I think Councilwoman Mayer's looking to view a little basketball
Hit
this
the
evening.
road, that's right.
That might speed everything.
Sure. Absolutely. We'll start all the way down at the end.
I'm Trina Mayer. I have the Utilities Committee.
I'm Nick Legati, and I am in Public Safety, so I have the Police and Fire Department.
I'm Dorianne Kerber. I am Chair of the Public Works.
Merrick Stever, Mayor.
Ron Dixon, Finance.
Rich Revelinsky, I have Parks and Rec, and it's hot in here, so I wish I could control the air conditioning as well.
I turned it on.
Councilman
It's not
Randy
on.
Farkas, Environmental, Health and Social Services.
Oh, Borough Attorney's over there.
Raise your hand.
Mr.
We have Mr. Barr.
Business
CFO.
Administrator.
And I'm the Borough Clerk. Yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Will the clerk please call the roll? Oh, did we do that already?
No.
No, we gotta do it again because we're open the president.
Okay.
Council President Dixon?
Aye.
Councilman Farkas?
Aye.
Councilwoman Kerber?
Aye.
Councilman Legati?
Aye.
Councilman Mayor?
Roll right into the next.
Here,
We're adjourning.
here. Oh, what are we
I thought we were
doing?
rolling into the next.
We adjourned and then, I thought we were
We
doing
have to
roll
get
call
out and then
for-
start the next meeting.
I thought we were doing, are you
Did that.
attendance or?
We're leaving.
You're back in.
I thought we were doing attendance for the business meeting,
Yes.
right?
Everybody's saying aye.
Right. Oh,
Present.
President,
Okay.
Councilman. We have 6 present.
All are present and accounted for, Madam
Yes.
Clerk. Okay, with that, will the clerk please read the meeting statement?
Let the minutes reflect that adequate notice of the holding of this regular meeting of the Borough Council was provided by the adoption of a resolution and the posting, filing, forwarding of a copy of the same to the official borough newspapers, Home News Tribune, and Star Ledger Publishing Companies on January 10, 2019. Public participation in this meeting will be permitted during public hearings and after the agenda of scheduled matters has been completed.
Thank you. Please rise for a moment of silence, followed by a salute to our nation's flag.
The United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, at this time, I wish to issue the following mayoral proclamations. Official proclamation, Autism Awareness Month. Whereas autism is a spectrum disorder, which means no two people with autism are affected the same way, and it is a complex development disability that usually appears during the first 3 years of life and results in neurological disorder that affects the functioning of the brain and social interaction and communication skills. And whereas on World Autism Awareness Day and Autism Awareness Month, we honor the millions of Americans living with autism spectrum disorder, who, in spite of challenges they may face, continue to make extraordinary contributions to their family, their communities, our nation, and the world. And whereas we also express our sincere appreciation to the families, friends, medical professionals, and caregivers who help Americans with autism spectrum disorder pursue a full and meaningful life. And whereas, to maximize the quality of life across the entire autism spectrum, we must ensure that ASD is accurately identified and diagnosed in both children and adults. We must also support access to effective care, critical resources, and support services. And whereas from home to school and in business and communities around the world, people living with autism spectrum disorder contribute in immeasurable ways to our society. They remind us each day that every person is born with unique talents and should be treated with respect, play an active role in planning for their futures, and feel empowered to fully participate in and contribute to their communities. When those with autism have access to equal opportunities, we all do better, and that begins with making sure our country lives up to its commitment to ensure all things are possible for all people. And whereas every person deserves the chance to reach for their highest hopes and fulfill their greatest potential, on World Autism Awareness Day, we reaffirm our dedication to ensuring that belief is a reality for all those who live on the autism spectrum, including 1 in 68 children. And we uphold our obligation to help make sure every man, woman, and child, regardless of ability or background, is accepted for who they are and able to lead a life free from discrimination and filled with opportunity. Now therefore I, Eric A. Stieber, Mayor of the Borough of Milltown, do hereby declare April as Autism Awareness Month for the year 2019 and April 2nd as World Autism Awareness Day. And I encourage all Americans to learn more about autism and what they can do to support individuals on the autism spectrum and their families, and to help shape a world in which all people, including those with autism, are accepted for who they are. In witness thereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the official seal of the Borough of Milltown to be affixed this 8th day of April, 2019. My next proclamation is the official proclamation, April being Sexual Assault Awareness Month. Whereas Sexual Assault Awareness Month and the observance of Denim Day are intended to draw attention to the fact that sexual violence is widespread and has public health implications for every community member of Middlesex County, including lifelong mental health impact. And whereas sexual assault, sexual abuse, and sexual harassment greatly impact our community, as statistics indicate, 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys are sexually abused before age 18, with many more experiencing other types of sexual violence in their adult life. And whereas prevention is possible, so we must work together to educate our community about what can be done to stop sexual violence while supporting survivors. And whereas staff and volunteers of anti-violence and prevention programs in Middlesex County, including the Middlesex County Center for Empowerment and Sexual Violence Prevention Coalition, encourage every person to speak out when witnessing acts of violence, however small, and to challenge the social norms that continue to perpetuate a culture of violence. And whereas the New Jersey Sex Crimes Officers Association and the Middlesex County Sex Crimes Liaison Officers, in connection with the Middlesex County Prosecutor's Office, are dedicated to ensuring the effective investigation and prosecution of sex crimes in our community through interagency collaboration and training. And whereas with leadership, dedication, and encouragement, there is compelling evidence that we can be successful in reducing sexual violence in Middlesex County through increased awareness, prevention, education, focused on increasing gender equality, increasing gender equity, healthy relationships, and bystander intervention, and holding perpetrators who commit acts of violence responsible for their actions. And whereas through the month of April, Middlesex County strongly supports the efforts of national, state, and local partners, and of every citizen to actively engage in public and private efforts, including conversations about what sexual violence is, how to prevent it, how to help survivors connect with services, and how every segment of our society can work together to better address sexual violence. Now therefore I, Eric A. Stieber, Mayor of the Borough of Milltown, do hereby declare April as Sexual Assault Awareness Month for the year 2019 and proclaim that we join anti-sexual violence advocates and support service programs in the belief that all community must be part of the solution to end sexual violence and encourage the observation of Denim Day on Wednesday, April 24th, 2019. In witness thereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the official seal of the Borough of Milltown to be affixed this 8th day of April, 2019. Thank you. That concludes mayoral proclamations. Now, next on the agenda, we have audience comments and questions on the bills and claims and resolutions listed on this evening's agenda. If you have any comments or questions, please use the microphone in the center of the room. Give your name and address for the record when recognized. Remember, comments and questions are limited to the resolutions and the bills and claims listed on this evening's agenda. With that, I will open audience comments. Seeing none, I will close audience comments. Next on the agenda is bills and claims. Will the clerk please read Resolution 19-102 by title only, please?
Authorizing the payment of bills, claims, and statements against the Borough of Milltown in the total amount of $336,615.66.
Okay, you've heard the reading of this resolution. What is your pleasure?
Move that this resolution be adopted.
That's second.
I have a motion by Councilman Revelinsky, seconded by Councilwoman Kerber, that the resolution is adopted. Is there any discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Council President Dixon?
Aye.
Councilman Farkas?
Aye.
Councilwoman Kerber?
Aye.
Councilman Legati?
Aye.
Councilwoman Mayer?
Aye.
Councilman Revelinsky?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, we have 6 ayes.
So moved. Okay, next we have reports of standing committees and introduction of resolutions. A consent resolution has been prepared to cover the 14 resolutions listed on this evening's agenda. If any member of the council would like any of those resolutions acted upon individually, please state the number of the resolution and it will be removed from the consent.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Oh, sorry. 19-115.
Any others?
I just have a question. Does the consent resolution, does that include 19-118?
No, that's going to be taken care of in new business.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, 19-117.
Any others?
19-116, please.
Hearing no others, I will ask the clerk to please read the consent resolution, reminding the council you are voting on all acceptings numbers 115, 116, and 117, which will be acted on individually. With that, will the clerk please read the consent resolution?
Whereas pursuant to the rules of council, the council may establish a consent agenda for any regular or special meeting, and whereas the Borough Clerk has posted a consent agenda for this meeting, now therefore be it resolved by the Mayor and Borough Council of the Borough of Milltown, County of Middlesex, State of New Jersey, that the consent agenda previously prepared by the Borough Clerk be approved without the necessity of having the individual resolutions read by the Borough Clerk.
Okay, you've heard the reading of this resolution. What is your pleasure?
I move that this resolution be adopted.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Revelinsky, seconded by Councilman Legati, that the resolution is adopted. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Council President Dixon?
Aye.
Councilman Farkas?
Aye.
Councilwoman Kerber?
Aye.
Councilman Legati?
Aye.
Councilwoman Mayer?
Aye.
Councilman Revelinsky?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, we have 6 ayes.
So moved. Will the clerk please read Resolution 19-115 by title only?
A resolution of the Borough Council of the Borough of Milltown authorizing an Eagle Scout project on borough property.
Okay, you've heard the reading of this resolution. What is your pleasure?
Move that this resolution be adopted.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Revelinsky, seconded by Councilman Legati. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Scoutmaster George Murray is here, as well as Tyler, who is going to be doing the Eagle Scout project. I wanted them to be able to come up and speak to us about the project. In addition, I passed out the draft drawing from Rutgers University for the design work on the rain garden that he's proposing.
Welcome, gentlemen.
Good evening. I'll go first. So my project will be a rain garden on the other side of the area where the Mill Pond Park is. There is currently a drain basin there. We wanted to, Councilwoman Kerber discussed with a Rutgers team earlier last week to start utilizing the area to start growing, I guess, two gardens in the area, which would be very beneficial to the look of the area and the local, traffic through there. So,
Sounds like a great project.
thank you.
Would you be willing to accept questions from the council if they have any?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any members of the council have anything they wish to ask this young man?
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Tyler, right?
Yes.
Well, first of all, congratulations on your project.
Thank
I think it's a great project. My question is, what kind of plants are you going to be planting in for the rain garden?
We are not certain yet. We are trying to find, we have a list, but we're trying to modify it and find plants that would be native to the area.
Native to the area, and that will also do well in a wet area?
Yes.
Is there any thought to doing any kind of plants that would attract butterflies and attract different kind of things that would help?
Yeah, of course, certainly.
Okay, perfect. That's all I want to know. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else?
I have a question about the financials. Often we have a young gentleman coming up from the Eagle Scouts saying they want to do a project, and we always hear that it's a little bit of money coming out of their pocket. So do you have an anticipated amount that you'd be spending on this project, or you would need to complete it?
Not yet. Like I said, we're still working on the list. I would say probably over $1,000, but that's all donations and grants and stuff, so.
I would highly recommend that when you have an estimated dollar amount, you come back to this podium here and make sure you hold every one of us up for some money.
Okay.
So the project that is in front of you on the draft, it indicates like 400 to 500 square foot. I think they're going to reach the goal of 500 square foot with Rutgers University. Let me take my watch off, sorry. And what Tyler is going to work on is the 360 square foot of the project. The Scouts will remain with the other group, is going to be our Joyce Kilmer Green Club. They're working on the MOU for the next meeting so that when we are ready to set off on this project, that portion will be funded by Rutgers for the extension of 370 to 500 square foot. In addition, since Rutgers was out there, they're going to enhance the area along the side area, along the rain garden to bring, butterflies, of course, and more, better vegetation. And we are going to work on some service projects. There is some invasive species along the pathway as it continues behind that parking lot. So we'll be working on that and bringing that forth to the council for future service projects for the invasive species too, because it is covering up a lot of the vegetation. And mostly you see daffodils, but everything else is being choked. So it's a great work in progress between Rutgers, the Eagle Scouts, and the Boy Scouts projects for the future. And now, we're very lucky to have them.
The only thing I have is to ask you to make sure that you have a contact with our borough engineer into regards if there's going to be any impact on our under drain system in there. If we can work with this young man and make sure that everything works perfectly.
So Tyler, I have a question. Congratulations on your project.
Thank you.
The Eagle Scouts and the whole troop has done a lot of projects that have been very helpful to the borough of Milltown, so we appreciate it. What's the timeline for the project?
Timeline. We will start contacting companies this weekend as soon as I think. We have a couple of contacts already, but a close family friend of mine knows a lot. He's a contractor, so we'll get some information from him this weekend. We'll work towards more companies, So I think by at least the end of May, early June.
Oh, that's
so
fast.
We'll be starting
Wow.
soon.
Great.
So.
Good. Thank you.
Any other questions for this young man? Seeing none, I will say thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. With that, will the clerk please call the roll?
Council President Dixon?
Aye.
Councilman Farkas?
Aye.
Councilwoman Kerber?
Aye.
Councilman Ligotti?
Aye.
Councilman Mayor?
Aye.
Councilmember Valinsky?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, we have 6 ayes.
So moved. Will the clerk please read Resolution 19-116 by title only, please?
Authorizing the Borough of Milltown to execute change order number 1 with Rich Tree Company Incorporated for the addition of line item for grapple truck equipment.
Okay, you've heard the reading of this resolution. What is your pleasure?
Move that this resolution be adopted.
I second.
I have a motion by Council President Dixon, seconded by Councilwoman Kerber, that the resolution is adopted. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the reason I asked about this one is I'm curious if we have Blue Book values or if there is state contract dollar amount. This seems to be an add-on, something that may have been excluded or just not included, overlooked in our contract with Rich's Tree Service. So I'm curious as to how they came up with the $200 per hour cost for the grapple trucks.
That's just their rate for that particular rate.
Yeah, it's their rate for that piece of equipment. We didn't expect, when we went out, we didn't expect them to use a grapple truck. However, it would be more efficient if they did, instead of having a crew sit there and cut up the logs to manageable sizes. So I think overall, with the project, it will be a cost savings to us to have them move the larger pieces quicker with the truck instead of having them cut it up.
So this is just for removal of trees that are already cut?
Correct.
Or as they're cutting them down, remove, okay. Very good.
Is there, Randy, is there a minimum on this? Because if they normally, right, they use the truck, they're gonna get paid for the whole day, right? If they have the truck on site, they're gonna get paid for the whole day.
No, if they utilize it for the whole day, they'll get paid for the whole day.
Okay, we have that in there, that only when they use
Yeah,
it?
the Public Works Director has been working very closely with them, and they've been right on target with the equipment they use and so forth. They're only charging for the time that equipment is used. My theory would be that they're gonna go in half-day increments, you know, have enough logs to come pick up either half-day or full-day. I'm thinking more of the half-day side.
Okay, and as long as there's some oversight that they can cut down and log up as much as they do, that when they have enough for a half a day's work, they can come, not park it on the site, wait, you know, and charge us out.
Right, and I will make sure Ralph is aware of that, and he'll check into it with him.
Excellent, thank you.
Any other questions? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Council President Dixon?
Aye.
Councilman Farkas?
Aye.
Councilwoman Kerber?
Aye.
Councilman Legati?
Aye.
Councilwoman Mayer?
Aye.
Councilman Revelinsky?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, we have 6 ayes.
So moved. Will the clerk please read Resolution 19-117 by title only, please?
Authorizing the Borough of Milltown to award a contract to All Around Concessions, LLC, to operate the pool snack shack.
Okay, you've heard the reading of this resolution. What is your pleasure?
Move that this resolution be adopted.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilman Revelinsky, seconded by Council President Dixon, that the resolution is adopted. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. My apologies to Councilman Revelinsky if this was discussed at the advisory committee meeting. To me, these numbers look low. I thought there was a minimum at one point that was a lot higher than these numbers for rental of the snack shack at the pool.
It was not discussed at the rec advisory meeting, but I will say that I noticed the numbers do look low as well. Randy, do you know, or Gabriella, do we have a posted minimum?
There is no posted minimum in the bid specifications. When they were written, originally, it was not desired by those involved to include a minimum. This is significantly lower than years past. The 2017, 2018 season, I believe it was $3,701 for each season. This is also the only bid that was received for this next round. It's the continuing, it's the same operator.
I would recommend voting no. These are considerably lower. I understand if it's not profitable for him, he's not gonna do it. I understand that, but I think we're leaving money out there for the borough that these are very, very, very low numbers.
Well, I will say, Nick, that one of the reasons it didn't jump out at me as being extremely low is because we don't have anything in our rules about bringing outside food into the pool. So they're basically operating it, and the hot dogs here and there that they sell, pizza is often delivered to the pool for people, and they're bringing in coolers of their own waters and beverages, so it's kind of a fine line on how much they deem. I would have no problem saying that we should go back out to bid. I just don't know how many more people would be interested. This gentleman may very well know that in years past, he's lost money or it hasn't been worth his time, so.
I would ask the borough attorney, is that something that could be recommended?
How did we solicit bids on this project?
Fair and open bid process.
And we set no minimum price? So I don't know that we have the
I don't know if we have, I mean, we could table this discussion if they wanted to, but I don't know if we have a valid, I just said that to
Correct.
Mr. Barr, I don't know if we have one of the legal requirements to reject the bids.
That's correct.
Other than just having one bidder,
That's
isn't it?
not,
That's not a basis for rejection of a bid. You certainly can move to table it. If you do that, there would be no other discussion tonight. And then I suppose that the two people who are at that table might have further discussion on the subject with the bidder, but other than that, there's no other recourse.
Because I thought in 2014, that's when we started to make the changes, and that's when it was raised, because it was this low. And that's when we got competitive, and that's how come this new snack
I really
shop
remember
this snack ship.
$2,100 for a
Correct.
2-year commitment is what comes into my mind as years ago.
And that's what we raised it,
In years
right?
past, they did it as an RFP, which isn't the proper way to procure it. There was no minimum in the RFP request. When there was a breach of contract and we had to go back out to bid in 2017, I had recommended that we go out to bid instead of an RFP for proper process. And when we sat down to write the bid specs, that suggestion was not accepted. So we did not include a minimum for that particular reason. We did include facts of previous seasons and what the bid had gone for. However, it was not a requirement that the responding proposal was at that amount.
Right, and just as form of discussion up here, I believe we raised it quite a few years ago, if Dorian remembers as well as I do, and we had no problem getting the higher amounts. So to go from here to here in 1 year is a little drastic. I think this is wrong. I don't think we should really be accepting this bid. I think these amounts should be upped, and if that means to table it or to get our rec director involved with the communication, do we go back to this company? Can we go back to them and say,
No, it was a fair and open process. So, and this is the only bidder.
wow?
So it is as it is.
Correct.
Thank you, sir.
My question, Gabrielle, you brought up that you said when he wrote the specs, he being the contractor, the person that.
No. The RFP was different. There was no minimum in the RFPs previously because there's no specification with an RFP. It was saying that we were requesting proposals for a snack shack and the terms were to be outlined by the proposal. When it breached in 2017, I worked with Denise and our rec director, Denise, our previous business administrator, on the specifications. And when it was discussed for a minimum, the determination and discussion had led to say that if we put in a minimum, that would be the only amount we received. And so it was the decision to not include a minimum, but to include the cost of previous contracts.
I would have a question for the borough attorney. Being that it may be as it may this year, is there a way that this could be handled in the future that would satisfy the desires of the council in years coming forth?
I think going forward, you would build in a minimum price, understanding the problem that happens is maybe that's all you get. So you factor that into your fair and open process at that time.
Towards that, can I amend this to say for 1 year, not 2?
No, it is, I mean, you've put out the bid as is, you're bound by that bid.
Okay. Any other discussion?
I would have liked to have seen this bid before it had gone out, is my only remaining comment, because Nick brings a certainly a valid argument to this, and in light of the amount of money we were bringing in previous years, this is low. It didn't kind of jump out as me as something odd, knowing that we can allow outside food, but, yeah.
Does this even cover our gas and electric?
Does the bid specifications include that person pay for gas and electric for the snack facility?
Utilities.
It does. The bid specifications state that they have to pay for all utilities on the property, which can include, there's no gas hookup to the facility, but any water, thank you. I was trying to think of what the other utility was. Electric, not taxes because it's a tax exempt property, but it is included, and if there was ever to be a gas hookup, then they would be responsible for that as well.
I guess the recommendation is that we continue on with the course we're taking this evening, and that in the future, the contract is outlined by our borough attorney.
That would be correct, Mr. Mayor.
Just one more question. Mr. Borough,
Yes, I'm sorry.
what's the ramifications if we vote it down?
From a legal standpoint, you can be challenged by the bidder that you rejected it on a basis that's not a valid basis for rejection. And then they'd bring an action, conceivably bring an action in court. So if they brought an action in court, you could be you could be forced to abide by it and pay counsel fees.
Okay.
Go ahead. I'm being asked a question by the clerk about with drastically changing.
Is that a reason to object as far as, my recollection, if we're talking about we're stating on council, if we were to change the bid specifications drastically, wouldn't that be a reason I believe that's one of the reasons to reject. I would, if we're not sure offhand, I would rather research it and table it.
Yeah, because as it is right now, we can't change the bid specifications as it stands. As what I said earlier, we can table the matter.
I think that's a reason to reject.
Well, you'd have to table it.
To discuss it.
That's right.
And perhaps by tabling it, the person might be willing to withdraw their bid?
Well, you can't approach the subject that way. So you can either table it or adopt it, or approve, I should say.
So if anyone wants to amend the motion on the floor right now is to approve. If someone would like to supersede that with a motion to table, that would be the other course of action that we take now, or
What's the reason
call
to
roll.
table it? What's your recommendation, Mr. Bruder?
It's really council preference. If you want to table it so that we can further investigate some bases that may exist with respect to the bid. So that would require some legal research. That would be the basis to table it.
I'd like to make a motion to table resolution, whatever number it is.
117.
Second.
Okay, that is proper procedure for a tabling.
That is correct,
Correct.
Mr. Mayor.
So we have a motion to table by Councilman Legati, seconded by Councilman Farkas.
I would like one moment of discussion
There can-
after that
once a
motion.
motion
Once
to
the
table,
motion
Oh,
there's
that's-
no discussion.
To table, you can no longer discuss.
Yeah, there's no discussion. It has to.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Council President Dixon?
Aye.
Councilman Farkas?
Aye.
Councilwoman Kerber?
Aye.
Councilman Legati?
Aye.
Councilman Mayor? Aye. Councilman Revelinsky?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, that's 6 ayes to table.
So moved to table. This time, we will move to the report of the Department of Finance, Administration, and Planning, chaired by Council President Ronald Dixon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A very short report this evening. I've spoken early this morning with our auditor, Mr. Jerry Stankiewicz. I've spoken with our CPA, Randy Barr. I think both are working towards a proposed budget that we can, as a budget committee and as finance committee, we could sit down and go over. Am I correct, Mr. Barr?
Yes, that's correct.
I believe you're still waiting for stuff to come in, as is Mr. Stankiewicz, who I spoke with this morning. I have met with both of you on several occasions, and just waiting for information to come in. And I think this is the third meeting I've said that. It's like pulling teeth sometimes, getting what they need. But we are going forward, and we will be sitting down shortly, I hope,
Yes.
to come up with a budget. And that is basically my report.
Thank you. Next, we will hear from the Department of Public Safety, chaired by Councilman Nick Legatti.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No report this evening, sir.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from the Department of Utilities, chaired by Councilwoman Trina Mayer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have the Utility Department report for the month of March 2019. We had 52 daily station checks, 31 substation checks, 100 plus utility markouts. Water samples. Disinfectant residual testing was performed on March 6th, 14th, and 27th. All testing was found to be within acceptable parameters. Electric utility. Various electrical meters were replaced, several house drops and hooks were replaced and repaired. Numerous streetlights were repaired and we have been aggressively patrolling at night to compile a full list of broken fixtures. Streetlights deemed unrepairable have been replaced with energy-efficient LED lights. Ongoing maintenance of the overhead wiring has resumed and several deficiencies repaired. Water Department. Numerous broken water meters were replaced throughout the borough. Curb stops were located for various customers. The water tower painting project is underway, and the utility department has been assisting in the planning and preparations required by the contractors. The tank has been drained to facilitate the necessary surface preparation and new coating to the interior to comply with DEP inspections requirements and ensure longevity. The utility department assisted the contractor for the new public works building and firehouse to tie in the new water service to the property. The sewer department. The 100 horsepower pump at Church Street Pumping Station is still in the process of being repaired. Upon disassembly, additional parts were required and are on order with the manufacturer. Utility personnel responded to a blocked sewer on North Main Street and operated our jetter to free up the blockage. Metering. As always, the utility department works hand in hand with the utility billing department to ensure accurate utility charges. We troubleshoot faulty meters and work very hard to resolve any billing issues that occur. March was a good month for the department as we welcomed back an employee that had been out on a non-work related injury, and we added an additional crew member to replace an employee that chose a different career path. People are starting to use the reported concern feature on the website, and we are doing our best to communicate with the residents and respond to the issues reported. As our crew complement has been improved, you will see our linemen working in the air more frequently. Please be careful driving in proximity to bucket trucks and utility vehicles. Flashing amber lights are almost always an indication of men working on or near the roadway. Please slow down and be aware. We have been receiving calls about shutting off water to homes for plumbers performing repairs. Milltown Water does not operate the curb stops located near the sidewalk. Notify the plumber or contractor that he can operate the curb stop. Borough ordinance states that the property owner is responsible for the water service from the meter to the point of connection on the water main in the street. This includes the curb stop valve and the curb stop riser and cap. If the curb stop is not visible, we can locate the water line and attempt to find the curb stop with our metal detector. If the metal detector fails to locate the curb stop cap, it is up to the homeowner to perform whatever excavation is required to access the riser and valve. And then this is from Mr. Eckert. I'd like to make residents aware that the water tower painting project is not a cosmetic issue. The tank is at an age where a new coating inside and out is absolutely necessary. In addition, the cathodic protection system, the electrical device that neutralizes corrosion, doesn't have an infinite lifespan and is being replaced as it can no longer be properly calibrated. An agitator is being installed that maintains motion in the water tank and will help the disinfectant in the water do its job. The lower part of the tank is being insulated. There have been numerous emergencies during the past 2 winters where the temperature in this space has been close to or below freezing, despite 2 heaters running nonstop, jeopardizing the valves, instruments, and equipment present. Last year, a valve froze and cracked, resulting in a costly emergency. The new insulation will save energy and provide protection. Lastly, the way the tank communicates with the Elkins Lane pumping station is obsolete and being replaced with state-of-the-art radio units to ensure reliability. All in all, this project is all about improving water quality in the borough. The utility staff has been extremely busy providing water quality, reliable electricity, working streetlights, and functional fire hydrants. Now that we have a larger staff, we are going to concentrate on completing our section of the borough website. I've been compiling a frequently asked questions section that hopefully addresses most of the common questions that residents have. As always, it is a pleasure to serve all of our residents, and we strive to provide prompt service around the clock. A reminder to all residents, if you have a water, sewer, or electric emergency, you can call Milltown Police Dispatch at 732-828-2100, extension 0, for service at any time. For non-emergency situations like reporting a street light out or a leaking fire hydrant, you can call the utility office at 732-828-2100, extension 137, or report non-emergency problems on the website, Report a Concern. If you have any questions about water or electric service or your water or electric bill, call the borough number extension 183. Please remember to check with Channel 15 and Milltown, New Jersey for updated information. Submitted by John Eckert, Director of Utilities. And Mr. Mayor, that concludes my report.
Thank you. Next, we will hear from the Department of Public Works and Recycling, chaired by Councilwoman Dorianne Turber.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Public Works report is, along with all regular curbside collections, street sweeping has taken place and will be ongoing as manpower permits. Quarterly catch basin cleaning has begun, will be ongoing for the next few weeks. The Albert Avenue soccer field has been painted in preparation for the spring soccer season. All Borough ball fields have been trimmed, infield mix added, and worked on in preparation for opening day, which is on April 13th. A broken window at the Cottage Avenue Firehouse was replaced. A leak in the library roof has been repaired. Tree pruning has been ongoing. Tree removal has taken place on Albert Avenue, Crestwood Drive, Desmond Avenue, Fisher Drive, Clay Street, Renault Drive, West Lawrence Avenue, and will be ongoing through various streets around the town. Public Works has lent an employee to utilities to cross-train on the meter reading. Public Works staff has begun dead tree removal and cleanup at the Janet Court Park and Fire Road. Spring has arrived. Please remember, garden waste must be in cans. Grass must be in cans. These items should be placed in cans to the curb on your garbage day. This is another reminder, recycling is this Thursday. You must be put out in the cans only. Do not put them in shopping bags. Do not put them in garbage bags. I know this has been conflicted. I've spoken to the Improvement Authority. Some of the workers on staff will tell you just go ahead, just throw it in. What happens is they go to the processing center, take all the bags out, they weigh it out, that gets deducted from what recycled. You have your recycling stuff, and whatever garbage is taken out, they weigh it against what we've sent for recycling. So that gets, deducted. So you really want to keep the garbage in the garbage and recycling of plastics 1 and 2 only. No other plastics, no toys unless it has a 1. It's quite rare. Your yogurt containers are mostly 5. There's the containers home from your restaurants, number 5, garbage, that's garbage. So please stop putting things in plastic bags. It's continuous, I've seen around town, and it just actually, we get deducted from our recycling tonnage. So, concrete pickup is Monday, April 8th, Friday, April 12th. Please call 732-828-2100, extension 187, to make an appointment. Please check Channel 15. Also, use the milltownnewjersey.org. They also have reporting issues, and we also will keep Public Works updates. In terms of the tree removals, they've been doing some of the smaller trees in-house, and then, of course, we have the service. They've done about 20 trees at approximately $40,000. I'll have a more of a report and analysis at the next meeting, because it's been a couple weeks, it's about a month, so they come every other week like we've mentioned before at the last meeting, and by the next meeting I'll have a full analysis, the total amount, what's due, and what streets are still on schedule to be done. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from the Department of Environmental, Health, and Social Services, chaired by Councilman Randy Parks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No report tonight.
Thank you. Next, we will hear from the Department of Recreation, chaired by Councilman Richard Revelinsky.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Summer sack packets are now available at the Recreation Department and have been submitted for approval for the website. As a courtesy, we have emailed the summer sack packet to all current SAC participants and past SAC summer participants. We are still accepting employment applications for adult SAC aides for both age groups for both summer and school year SAC. Please be advised that due to the HVAC construction at Parkview School this summer, the Milltown SAC program will be held at Joyce Comer School. As a reminder, as per DCPP mandations, if your child is in need of emergency medication, the SAC site must have the medication in the original packaging, labeled with your child's name on it, and placed in a Ziploc bag with an action plan. If this is not on site, the SAC program will be in violation and your child will be removed from the program until the request is met. We appreciate your cooperation so that we remain in compliance and can do our best to keep your children safe. Recreation information for all summer seasonal applicants. We are in the process of calling new applicants for interviews. If you are a new employee applying for a position or have applied for a new position, we will be contacting you as well. Again, if you have previously worked and have applied for the same position, we will not be calling you for an interview. You will receive a letter of employment once council approves for hire. All letters should be to all applicants mid-May. We thank you for your patience. Albert Avenue Summer Recreation registration forms will be available tentatively May 1st. Pool membership sales will begin in May. We will update the website when we have a date confirmation. If you would like to receive recreation, SAC, or pool newsflash notifications, please sign up with your email on the website. If you would like to receive constant contact, please contact the Recreation Department and provide us with your email. I'd also like to add that we have our spring soccer programs and spring recreation programs are up and running. They started last week for soccer over at Albert Avenue. You'll also be hearing those wonderful sounds coming from Gloria Bradford Park as the baseball season starts up this year, which has started about 3 weeks ago. So please be careful when you're driving past these areas on the weekends, folks. There are kids running around playing. So that concludes my report.
Thank you. Any old business to come before the council this evening?
Mr. Mayor, yes. April 13th also is our New Jersey Clean Communities Cleanup from 8:30 to 11:30, and we will not be going to Gloria Bradford Park. We will be doing other areas in town, and also we'll be doing prep work for plantings. It is still kind of cold, so we'll probably hold off on that, but at least prep the planters and, of course, get permission from the Revitalization Committee to proceed to put the flowers in for particularly the July 4th event. In addition, at 12 noon, Albert Avenue Park, Milltown Lions Club will have their 90th Easter egg hunt. And everything will be ready to go at noontime, and we hope to see many children as we have in years past. And that concludes my old business.
Thank you. Any other old business?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. This Saturday, April 13th at 9 starts the opening day of Milltown Little League, and the Milltown Municipal Alliance will be there, handing out pamphlets, flyers, some giveaways for the children and their parents to highlight the dangers of underage drinking and drug use. The other thing I have to announce as part of my liaison to the Board of Ed is the public hearing on the Board of Education budget will be May 6th. And I just wanted to announce also that the next Strategic Planning Committee meeting will be Wednesday, April 17th at 7 p.m. right here. That will be the first goal, will be downtown revitalization. So if you have ideas, comments, you want to see what the group has come up with so far, please come on November 17th here and join us. And that's, I mean, did I say? Sorry, senior moment. Sorry, April. I wasn't even close. Anyway, what was I going to say? No, I was just going to say one more thing. Anyway, couldn't have been that important. Okay, that's it, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Any other old business?
I actually have one at least. I wrote down a couple notes here. Randy, Mr. Barr, our BA, a while back we had put out requests or, for resumes for linemen. And I think at the time we had out there for 2, we obtained 1. Where are we with maintaining that posting for a position? Is that posting still up, and have we received any additional resumes to review or consider for linemen?
No, our lineman that was out on disability had come back, so we have 2 linemen currently employed.
Just 2.
Yeah.
So we'll discuss part of the personnel at the next Utilities Committee meeting. However, as I told our Utilities Director, it's hard to plan when we don't have a budget for next year yet. So we're waiting to get some budgetary numbers before we can address the personnel needs of the department.
Well, I would think our needs drive the budget, right?
Well, we would think, but that's not necessarily the case, and so we're waiting to see some numbers. We made our requests, but we will see what the final numbers come in.
The other thing, Trina, I don't know if John had mentioned this to you, but our flushing schedule.
Yes, I'm aware. Thank you.
Any other old
No,
business?
I'm asking if he's got an anticipated start date or
He
anything.
does, yes. Not until later on in the spring.
Any other old business?
Yes, I'll be real quick. The Complete Streets program for us to do Ford Avenue, Main, Church in Maine, the county reached out to us, and they're looking to do it at the end of this month, beginning of May. So that will be implemented with the painting. And the only thing we have to purchase is the bollards, which are minimal cost, which will also be in the street partially. It's a requirement of the grant, so that's going to be happening, and we'll be outreaching. They wanted to get in particularly before school is let out, so we can get some feedback from students and the adults and teachers in that area. So that'll be coming, and everybody will be notified, prior to it being implemented.
Councilwoman, how much was the grant for that?
That was $10,000.
And will we use it all?
We've used it all. Yes. That's
So-
correct.
and-
So the county's coming in to do it, no cost to the borough.
So
the
what did we
painting.
spend the $10,000 on?
That was on only technical assistance with the various stakeholders and the design work from the Voorhees Transportation Center. They did some studies. They're going to continue on doing studies. They're going to be there to view what's going on, plus do surveys with people asking, how do you feel about, what was implemented, and go from there.
So we spent $10,000 to paint the walkway?
No, $0. It was just a $10,000. That's what they have to estimate on. It's a technical grant, assistance grant. So there was no dollars given to us to use.
So
It
that,
was
I
just,
don't.
they had to give a dollar amount of the type of assistance that they were providing.
And that's what I don't understand. What did we spend $10,000 on in technical assistance for?
That was from the North Jersey Transportation Authority, our engineering being attendance, and other stakeholders at these meetings. And it's for the design work, also discussions of how to do what we are going to be implementing. Outreach, and we did outreach as well.
So so we're repainting. Are there other things to come, or is that it? Since you said we spent it all.
Just those 2 areas. And the painting is all coming from the county at no cost to the borough. Because we had to do our 2 sides, they had to do their 2 sides. They're doing all of it for us.
So we're painting on Church Street?
We're painting at Church Street to emphasize that that's a
Church-
pedestrian area because of the school and because of the library.
And we also have a crossing guard there.
Correct.
None of this is permanent.
What do you mean?
According to the county, it is.
Oh.
It's their road, and they're going to be implementing it as a permanent paint basis.
Conversations I've had with the police chief, he was under the impression that this is not a permanent thing. So we're going to have to talk to the chief before anything gets painted, because I'm pretty sure that he doesn't want anything permanent there.
All right, let's have that discussion at a Public Works meeting, if we could. Any other new
Okay.
old business? Hearing none, new business.
I think we have a resolution to read.
Yes, I make a motion to adopt a resolution previously prepared by the Borough Clerk but not placed on the agenda titled Authorizing Certain Personnel Actions, Finance and Administration.
Second.
Do we need a reading from the clerk?
She read the title, authorizing certain personnel actions, finance and administration.
Lovely.
Resolution 19118.
Okay, you've heard the reading. Oh, sorry, we had a motion by Councilwoman Mayer, seconded by Councilman Farkas, that the resolution is adopted. Is there any discussion?
Just I know we had discussed earlier the final number there. Are we
Yes.
voting on the revised?
Yes.
Okay.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Council President Dixon?
Aye.
Councilman Farkas?
Aye.
Councilwoman Kerber?
Aye.
Councilman Legati?
Aye.
Councilwoman Mayer?
Aye.
Councilman Revelinsky?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, we have 6 ayes.
So moved, and congratulations. Any other new business? Seeing none. Audience comments, please state your name and address for identification on the record. Please use the microphone, center the room. With that, I will open the floor.
Good evening. Joe Demeter, 6 Kearney Drive. This is going to be real short, and it's more administration. First off, thanks for taking the trees down up on Clay and Renault. I missed some meetings, and I was just curious about, in catching up, went to the website to look for the past minutes of the meetings. This is back in early March. And I saw under the 2019 minutes section, nothing was posted. So I thought maybe I was doing something wrong. I wrote to Gabriella, and she was very nice to respond the next day, and basically said that there are a number of minutes that have not been adopted yet, and that is why they are not posted. Nothing for 2019 was adopted and posted then.
It's true, yes. We're working on them. Hopefully they'll be up for the next meeting.
Last thing I saw posted on the website for minutes was February 18, 2018. So how are we supposed to be aware of what's going on in this town unless we can get minutes posted? Now, Trina, you're great. You had 2 planning session meetings, and I know it's not under the borough minutes, but you had your minutes posted on the website. And the only other minutes posted on the website was the Board of Health from January 29. So can you meet the town halfway and tell us what's going on these council meetings?
Absolutely.
I'd look forward to seeing them posted.
Absolutely. We'll get it done at ASAP.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Joe. Anyone else? Alan?
Good evening, Alan Godber, Environmental Commission and Lawrence Brook Watershed Partnership, and live at 4 Fern Place. We have a meeting, our monthly meetings of the Watershed Partnership, Tuesday of next week, the 16th, and we're fortunate to have a lady, Angela Monaghan, I guess is Irish name, who's a Master Gardener Program Coordinator for Middlesex County, and she works primarily out of the Earth Centre. She's like 4th year, I think, of doing this project. And she is going to talk to us about getting to know native and invasive plants. Now, as you will recall, I'm sure, from the last few years, we had interns studying invasive plants, and we found a lot more than I think anybody expected in this town. Some pretty scary. We removed some of them, but there's a lot of work to be done. So this is important, particularly hearing what the scouts were talking about earlier this evening. I made sure I gave the scout a copy of this and invited him to come to the meeting. This lady is very knowledgeable about all these things, so if you would like to know about native plants to put in your garden and which ones are invasive to look for, to make sure you don't plant those or that you remove them, and please come and join us at this meeting, 7:30 next Tuesday, the 16th. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Anyone else? Seeing none, I will close audience comments. Council comments.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I have 2 quick ones. Tonight, we had an ordinance regarding the Milltown Education Foundation hosting a clothing drive at Gloria Bradford Park on May 4th. A lot of people might be enjoying the Kentucky Derby that way, so a little tongue-in-cheek, race on down and donate some clothes. You like that? I thought you would. Lastly, we did actually approve 3 different scouting projects this evening, and I'd like to thank the Scouts, the Boy Scouts and Eagle Scouts. We are certainly proud of their achievements and thankful for their continued commitment to the borough as they work toward their scouting goals. And anything we can do to help further that endeavor, please don't ever hesitate to reach out and ask us. And that is all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Anyone else?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. If I may, tomorrow, 11 a.m. at Woodbridge Center, 21 veterans from Milltown, good number of them from Milltown and surrounding towns, are going to be awarded the New Jersey Distinguished Service Medal, the New Jersey Meritorious Medal, Vietnam, Korea, and unfortunately the deceased from World War I. And I will be attending that, but I would like to recognize these individuals and say thank you to them for their service.
Ron, at the next meeting, can you have a list and read off the list of the honorees from Milltown?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Anyone else?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, just to piggyback on Councilman Revelinsky's comments about the Scouts, I neglected to inform the council that I did meet with the Scouts and the Schwendeman Steering Committee a couple weeks ago, and the Scouts are going to be leading the cleanup in the spring and doing some chinking and weatherproofing of the log cabin to make that a nice meeting place for the Environmental Commission and the Scouts, and to have some taxidermy, so we're looking forward to the work proceeding quite smoothly now throughout the summer. And I also wanted to thank the council and especially the mayor for moving the meeting along so I can get home at 9 o'clock, and I have my UVA orange and blue, so go Hoos, because my son is a student there and I'm looking forward to them winning the national championship tonight, so thank you.
Awesome. Anyone else? Seeing none, mayor's comments? I have one.
Fingers crossed.
Anyone celebrating their religious persuasion holidays this upcoming month? Wish you a blessed time, but happy spring. I'll accept a motion for adjournment.
A second.
I have a motion by Council President Dixon, seconded by Councilwoman Mayer. We adjourn.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Good night.
Thank you, Lord.
Aye, good night. I feel like I was in prison and I got put into the box.
You lost it. You lost it.